1 up, 1 down, and 13 more of each to go. Yes, welcome along to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby and this is the show dedicated to the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. That's the FA Women's National League, usually on a Thursday at 6 p.m, but this week, because of the importance of many of the games happening last night, I've pushed it back by 24 hours and just keeps the show more in date before this weekend's games. So we've got plenty to get on with on this week's show. We're going to start though in Tier 5. Bristol Rovers have been promoted into Division 1 South West after their winning the South West Regional Women's Football League. Now, if you actually go on the South West Women's Regional Football League, it does highlight the fact that Sherborne Town are 9 points away from Bristol Rovers with 3 games to play. However, the table hasn't been updated. And if you go on Sherborne Town's list, they've played 14 games and they are too far back from Bristol Rovers. So that's why that one looks a little bit odd. But yeah, so Bristol Rovers are promoted up to the FAWNL for next season. Now, we do have our first relegation, but we'll get on to that later. And other piece of news comes from Sheffield, because Sheffield FC's men's team, in order to play all their games in March away from home, and the women's team's games are getting switched, pitched there evidently in very bad condition. So how will that affect Sheffield on the run-in? We'll have to wait and see on that. Yeah, so that's the news from Sheffield really. And then other news coming out from this week, which is an interesting one, is that according to, well, the moving around of fixtures anyway, due to Derby, this is coming from Wolves, that due to Derby County's involvement in the plate final, Wolves' game against Derby on the 21st of April has been postponed and since rearranged, which highlights there that the plate final is on the 21st of April, but we don't yet have that confirmed and we don't know where it is. So that's one to keep an eye out. Now, Sod's Law, of course, will be on the one day that I've pushed this back by 24 hours. The league will still announce it some point between me recording and it coming out later, because that seems to happen every single week. Unless I start doing these shows live, then that's just going to be the situation. I think it's always going to happen. But those are kind of bits of news from around the league. So we really are getting now. Next week's show will see the end of the season appear on the board. We are 1 week away from the end of the season being on the board, and then we can really start to dive in to the run-ins that some of these teams have. Some of the leagues, as I've said for the last few weeks, I think are done and dusted, but there are some with some really significant games still to play. So without further ado, because we've got the final round of midweek fixtures to discuss in this week's show as well, we're going to start in the Northern Premier Division with the full programme, what would have been a full programme that happened on Sunday. AFC Fylde losing to Stoke City by 2-1. Rosine Kivell opening the scoring for Stoke in the 23rd minute before Sasha Rowe equalised for Fylde, and they were holding on until 10 minutes to go to the end of the game. Mia Leaf then in the 81st minute put Stoke in front and they held on. So a good week, as we will see, for Stoke. A disappointing game though for Derby County, who drew 3-3 with Halifax despite being 2-0 up at half time. So goals in this one: a hat-trick from Marley Rose Andrews for Derby, 2 in the first half, 13th and 43rd minute. They then get themselves pegged back thanks to goals from Madeline Oliver in the 59th minute and one for Katie Ramsden in the 73rd. So 2-2 with 17 minutes to go. Derby immediately hit back from that. Rose Andrews getting her hat-trick in the 75th minute, but then Halifax immediately hit back from that. Ellie White from the penalty spot 2 minutes after that. So 3 goals in the space of 4 minutes in Derby. And it results in a 3-3 draw, which has really hurt Derby in the league standings, as we'll get on to. Huddersfield Town against Liverpool Feds postponed. Newcastle United beating Stourbridge by 3-0. Goals in this one coming to Georgia Gibson in the 13th and the 78th minute, and Emma Kelly in the 52nd minute. So a decent victory for Newcastle. Wolves against Forest postponed, waterlogged pitch, but Burnley held by West Bromwich Albion at the Hawthorns 1-1. Phoebe Warner putting West Brom in front in the 13th minute, and they held on to that up till half time. Amy Kelly 11 minutes after the restart equalised for Burnley, but they could not find themselves a winner. So that is the Sunday. Now let's move through into midweek. 3 games took place in the past week. Stoke City following up that 2-1 victory over Fylde with a 2-0 victory at home to Derby. Heidi Logan in the 11th minute, Saffron Jordan in the 35th minute. Now interestingly here, I had to take, because the information wasn't on full time when I did these screens, it off the Twitter page, and Twitter said Kaylee McDonald got that goal for Stoke. Full time is now saying Heidi Logan got the goal for Stoke. So yeah, interesting one there. Halifax against Burnley postponed. Then Nottingham Forest beating Huddersfield Town last night by 2-1. Goals in this one: Holly Manders in the 45+1 and 66th minute. Yasmin Mason in the 76th minute with the goal for Huddersfield Town. But another defeat for Huddersfield as they battle against relegation. And then a very strong 4-0 victory for West Bromwich Albion over Stourbridge. One for Cole, one for Rabjohn, one for Warner, and one for Yamat, giving West Brom a comfortable victory in the end. What that means for the league table is that West Brom have done themselves a world of good in that fight against relegation. 4 points from 2 games this week has just lifted them above Derby County in the league table. So we have a look at the Northern Premier Division. Newcastle, of course, winning their game this week. Forest winning as well. Burnley, with a draw on Sunday, means they slip even further away now. They're 16 points away from Newcastle. Even with the 3 games in hand, that would still leave them 7 points away, requiring the North East side to lose 3 of their remaining 5 games. Can't really see that happening. Similar problem for Forest. They need Newcastle to heavily lose 2 or 3 of their remaining 5 games, and it looks as though, as we have had for a while now, it looks as though Newcastle will be in the Championship next season. Big mover in the Northern Premier Division. Stoke get themselves into the top 4, up 3 places this week with a 6-point week against Fylde and against Derby. So they move from 17 points all the way up to 23. Again, the caveat there: Wolverhampton Wanderers 3 games in hand on Stoke and Liverpool Feds, and just 1 win behind with a better goal difference. Same with West Brom now being level on points with Wolves, but Wolves have 5 games in hand on West Bromwich Albion. Derby County down 2. They are now in 8th place, and everything remains the same towards the bottom. Fylde losing at the weekend. Huddersfield losing in midweek. Stourbridge losing twice this week, but they look as though they've done enough. I know that Huddersfield have got 3 games in hand over Stourbridge, and there's only a 9-point gap, but now, it does rely on Huddersfield winning those games, which is something they have been struggling to do. And Fylde 12 points away from safety, 7 games to go. Seems it's only going to be a matter of time for FAWNL before they find themselves in Division 1 North. Right, Southern Premier Division then. Cardiff City 2, Plymouth Argyle 1. Another good result for the Welsh side, who have really turned it on since the start of February. Ruby Scahill in the 36th minute, and then Tia Asker in the 95th minute. Plymouth Argyle, they thought they'd rescued a point from this game. Ellie Sara in the 93rd minute had equalised before Asker went and got that 95th minute winner for Cardiff. London Bees, not been a good week for them. They lose by 6-3 against Cheltenham at the weekend, despite the fact that they went in front. Abby Benstead in the 9th minute had put London Bees in front, although that only lasted for 1 minute before Ella Pemberton equalised for Cheltenham Town. Cheltenham then took a commanding lead, really. It was a goal for Phoebe Poole in the 16th minute, Charlie Taylor in the 20th minute, Henna Butcher in the 28th minute. So 4-1 they led at the half-hour mark. And then it became 5-1 when Emily Allen on 34 minutes also got a goal. London Bees get one back. Benstead again, 36 minutes, so they find themselves 5-2 down. They then get another one before half-time. They're 5-3 down, that one coming from Alana Munro. And maybe they'll find a way back into this game. Only one goal in the second half. Phoebe Poole in the 64th minute, her second of the game, meant that Cheltenham win by 6-3. Portsmouth continue their charge at the top of the table. Looks likely again that they will end up in the Championship next season. Goals here coming to Georgie Freeland in the 17th minute, Emma Jones in the 34th, and Nicole Barrett in the 41st. 3-0 up Portsmouth were. Ipswich get one back from the penalty spot through Bonnie Horwood just before half time. And then 1 goal apiece in the second half. Freeland again, 67 minutes in, and Ruby Doe in the 85th minute meant Portsmouth end up winning by 4-2. Same scoreline for Rugby Borough against Billericay Town. Goals in this one, Katie Morris for Rugby in the 9th minute, although Billericay Town had taken the lead through Ruby Seeley just 6 minutes in. Lily Greenslade, 28th and 55th minute. This one was a bit of a back and forth game. Billericay taking the lead, Rugby equalising, then going in front, 2-1 in front at half time. Then a goal for Ella Horton makes it 2-2. Billericay Town there 3 minutes into the second half. Then 10 minutes into the second half, it's 3-2 through Greenslade again. And then Samantha Kerwood-Wagner in the 95th minute put Rugby Borough 4-2 in front. Chatham Town losing to Milton Keynes Dons by 2-1. Again, heartbreak here for Chatham Town, who nearly got themselves a point. Trisha Gould had taken the lead for Milton Keynes Dons on the hour mark. Cara Hines in the 72nd minute equalised for Chatham, but then Amy McLean, 92nd minute, put Milton Keynes Dons back in front. They take the 3 points, and Chatham don't get anything from the weekend. Hashtag United, another good victory for them. 3-0 up over Oxford United. All the goals coming in the second half. 2 for Samantha Rowland, 67th and 92nd minute, and 1 for Grace Gillard in the 85th minute. If we go through to midweek, Hashtag United then beating Billericay Town by 2-0. 2 for Valentine Percy, 15th and 37th minute. And then in the game at the bottom, the crucial relegation game, London Bees 1, Chatham Town 1. London Bees needed to win that game and didn't, although the draw doesn't really help Chatham either. Rugby Borough beating Milton Keynes Dons by 5-1. Kerwood-Wagner again, 11th minute. 2 for Yasmin Mosby, 35th and 69th minute. 1 for Nikki Potts in the 58th minute, and 1 for Lily Greenslade in the 75th. Milton Keynes Dons' goal coming to Warren in the 84th minute. Oxford United 2, Cheltenham Town 1. 2 goals in 3 minutes for Zoe Barrett gave Oxford the win in this one. 53rd minute, and then from the penalty spot in the 55th minute. All the goals coming in a 4-minute spell after Paul had put Cheltenham in front in the 51st. Oxford then quickly replying and going ahead, and that was that was all the scoring in that quick 4-minute spell between the two sides. In the table then, in the Southern Premier Division, you'll see there we have our first relegation. London Bees will be playing in Division 1 South East next year. They have 4 games to go. They are 13 points away from safety. They had to win that game against Chatham Town and didn't. And as a result, they are relegated out of the Southern Premier Division. Chatham Town have 12 points left on offer, and they are 10 points away from safety. They are not in action this weekend, so they will still be alive come next week's show. But they have to win all 4 of their games realistically because of the goal difference as well. And in their final 4 games, they have Ipswich, who are 5th, #, who are 2nd, and Rugby, who are 3rd. So it's only a matter of time really before Chatham Town go down into South East as well. Towards the top, you see wins for all the teams means the gaps are the same, but Portsmouth 6 points clear and with a much better goal difference with 5 games left to play. So # United relying on Portsmouth, dropping points in 3 of their last 5 games. Yes, they have Rugby Borough coming up this weekend, but then with 3 games against Plymouth, Cheltenham and London Bees, who are all in the bottom third of the table, then it's difficult to see where Portsmouth are going to slip up. So that's the deal in the Southern Premier Division. Cheltenham Town have done themselves a world of good with that victory over London Bees, because they are now 12 points clear of Chatham Town with 12 points available and a goal difference that is 21 better. Now over 4 games, that's not insurmountable, but realistically Cheltenham have made themselves safe. Cardiff City now are safe after the results of the weekend. Billericay Town are 11 clear with a goal difference that is 32 better than Chatham, so it needs a big capitulation from Billericay Town for them not to be in the Southern Premier Division next season. Let's move through then into Tier 4 and the Division 1 Midlands, where everybody played at the weekend. No postponements to discuss. Lincoln City 2, Sutton Coldfield Town 2. Goals in this one, 1-1 at half time. Sutton Coldfield Town took the lead very early on. Lois Jeffries in just the 4th minute for Sutton Coldfield, but Lincoln City answered back just before half time through Faith Horner. And then in the second half, Lincoln City take the lead just after the hour mark. Lucy Farrow, 61 minutes in, and Sutton Coldfield get that goal and the point back. Phoebe Hopwood in the last minute of the game. 2-2 between those two sides, and they share the points. Loughborough Lightning, a 4-1 victory over Leafield Athletic as they continue their push for promotion back into the Northern Premier Division. Jessica Collier in the 27th minute, Lydia Tilby-Henbury in the 31st. Jade Arber in the 54th minute, 3-0 to Loughborough. Leafield get one back in the final minute of the game for Shannon McCann-Lloyd, but then Loughborough not done with their scoring. 1 minute later, Arber gets her second of the game and they win by 4-1. Hot on their heels though, Sporting Cowser winning by 2-1 away at Northampton Town. All the goals coming in the second half. Rebecca Hall, 62 minutes. Layla Kennelly, 67. Kimberly Farrow getting one back for Northampton in the 75th, but not able to get an equaliser, and Sporting get all 3 points. Peterborough United, don't count them out of the race either yet. They beat Sheffield by 5-2. Scoring starting early, Emily Brett in the 3rd minute, then an own goal in the 8th minute. So by the 10-minute mark, Peterborough 2-0 to the good. They then get all their scoring done in the first half. Neve Connor in the 24th, Keir Perkins in the 27th, and Evie Driscoll-King in the 33rd. Peterborough 5-0 up at that point. Shannon Durkin gets one back 10 minutes before half time to make it 5-1. Then Matilda Hallis-Potts gets a consolation goal in the 91st minute, but Sheffield lose by 5-2. Probably biggest result of the weekend comes towards the bottom. Notts County, two goals in the second half, winning away at Solihull Moors by 2-0. Taka Burnett in the 48th minute, Nicola Russell in the 78th minute, means that Notts County get a huge 3 points in their fight for survival. And final game of the weekend was a 0-0 draw between Leek Town and Boldmere St Michael's. Good point there for Leek. It does hurt Boldmere St Michael's a lot more than it does Leek Town. Then into midweek, 5 games, so pretty much everybody in action in midweek. Boldmere St Michael's 1, Northampton Town 4. Horrendous week for Boldmere St Michael's, getting just 1 point from a possible 6. Their goal coming to Jade Formerston in the 52nd minute. But Northampton with 2 for Kimberly Farrow in the 28th and the 60th, 1 for Lalia Chanel in the 66th and 1 for Mia Richards in the 89th. Means Northampton with a convincing away win at Boldmere St Michael's in the end. Notts County couldn't carry their good form through from the weekend with an away trip down to Peterborough United. Peterborough convincing winners 6-1. Again, opening the scoring early. Emily Brett in the 4th minute put them 1-0 in front. They were 2-1 up at half time. Tara Kirk in the 15th minute put them 2-0 in front. Summer Gale for Notts County 7 minutes before half time made it 2-1. Then the second half, Peterborough turning on the style. Goals coming to Jessica Driscoll in the 58th, Neve Connor in the 73rd, to Poppy Brown in the 82nd and Ella Hilliard in the 90th minute from the penalty spot. Very convincing victory for Peterborough as they, as I said, don't discount Peterborough from that title race yet. Sporting Cows, another good victory, 3-2 at home to Sutton Coldfield Town. They're keeping the pressure on as well. Sutton Coldfield taking the lead in this one. Megan Hadley in the 8th minute. Hannah Sparks, according to Twitter, 19th minute. According to full time, 14th minute. Anyway, it was Hannah Sparks in the first half, equalising for Sporting Cowser. They then take the lead in the second half. Daisy Wickett 66th and Larry Walker 80th. Again, the official full time differing from Twitter. Lauren DeCasto getting one back for Sutton Coldfield Town in the 90th minute, but they could not find an equaliser. Lincoln City 2, Sheffield 1. Lincoln 2-0 up at half-time in this one. Goals from Madison Green and Millie Quaintance. But then Mariah McIntosh, 20 minutes from time, gets one back for Sheffield. They then go down to 10 with a few minutes to go in the game. Again, can't find an equaliser. Lincoln take 3 points. And Loughborough 4-0 winners against Leek Town. 1 for Powell, 2 for Jade Arbour and 1 for Greenwood as well. So 4-0 convincing victory for Loughborough. What that means for the Midlands table, not a huge amount of movement because the table was pretty spread out anyway. The only movement comes Sporting Cowser taking Boldmere's second spot. Boldmere, as I said, 1 point from a possible 6 this week, and that has really hurt them because if they'd have won both those games, they'd be joint top of the table now, albeit having played a game more. Now what they do is find themselves 5 points back, having played a game more. So Boldmere's maximum is 47, meaning Loughborough 3 wins from their final 5 games takes Boldmere out of the title race. But again, Peterborough United back there, they've got a game in hand on Loughborough and Sporting. Somebody's car alarm's going off, just check it's not mine. Nope, not mine, we're all good. So yeah, Sporting Cowser taking Boldmere's second spot, and they are now just 2 points away from Loughborough Lightning. They have a better goal difference as well, so the pressure really on Loughborough because any dropped point really gives Sporting Cowser a lift. 5 games to go and Loughborough this weekend away at Peterborough United. The rest of the games, Sutton Coldfield Town in 6th, Notts in 10th, Sheffield in 11th, Lincoln in 8th. So it really is, this is the game that Loughborough really need to get through. You compare it with Sporting Cowsers, they've got Sheffield in 11th, Leek in 9th, Lincoln in 8th, Leafield in 12th, and Sheffield again in 11th. So Sporting Council don't play anybody above 8th for the remainder of the season. As I said, come next week, when we've got the end of the season on the board and I've been through everything again, making sure there's no games that have moved that I'm not aware of, we will be looking, where relevant, at teams' run-ins, and this is a prime example here. We've got 4 teams involved in this title race, because even Peterborough, they've got a game in hand over Loughborough. If they beat them this weekend, they're 3 points behind Loughborough and with a game in hand, so don't discount Peterborough from this. Any one of those top 4 could still be in with a very good chance of going up. Again, down towards the bottom, a 5-point gap now, Notts County after that win at the weekend. But Sheffield have 2 games in hand. It could still be. Lincoln have probably done enough. But Leek Town, Notts County, Sheffield, Leaford Athletic, which one of those will end up in Tier 5? So plenty. Division 1 Midlands could be one of the more exciting leagues to look at, along with Division 1 North. Of course, Tier 3, it's boring. Tier 4 is where it's all at. Chester Street Town against Chorley postponed. Leeds United against Hull City also postponed. But a narrow victory, and it is narrow, but they all count the same for Durham Sestra against York City. Jordan Atkinson in just the 9th minute put them 1-0 in front, and they held on to that for the remainder of the game to get the 3 points. Convincing for Middlesbrough, 5-0 over Doncaster Rovers Bells. 2 for Ellen Turnbull, the 5th and the 90th minute. 1 for Ellen Packham in the 19th. 1 from the penalty spot for Sarah Byrne in the 24th. And 1 for Jessica Met in the 40th minute. So 4-0 at half time, 5-0 it finishes for Middlesbrough. Barnsley, 3-0 away win at Norton Stockton Ancients. Rosie Axton from the penalty spot in the 38th minute, and then a second goal in the 91st. And Brooke Marsden in the 73rd minute with the other goal for Barnsley. And at the weekend, Stockport County 3, FC United of Manchester 0. 2 goals for Levi Rathburn in the first half, 25th and 38th minute. And 1 for Kennedy Owen in the 93rd minute. Stockport 3, FC United of Manchester 0 from the weekend. In midweek, again, plenty to talk about in Division 1 North. All 6 teams should have been in action, but FC United Manchester against Leeds United postponed, so very frustrating week for Leeds. If we start then with Stockport County 2, Chorley 1. Goals to Davis in the 14th minute and Gillen in the 62nd. 1 back for Chorley, 14 minutes from time from Searson from the penalty spot. Obviously, some of these midweek games, all the information's not on full time yet, so I don't have all of the, I'm having to rely on Twitter and what have you. Hull City beating Barnsley by 4-1, convincing for Hull away from home as well. They were 4-0 up. 1 for Amy Pollock, 20th minute. Elise Jackman, 36th minute, coming off the bench there as well. Helen Linsky in the 44th, so 3-0 at half time. 1 for Shakala Brooks, although that has now been given on full time to Ellie Tanser. Again, I went off Twitter, and then full time sometimes is different, but in the 66th minute, and then a consolation goal for Barnsley through Biggins in the 87th. Chester Street Town 2, Middlesbrough 3 goals in this one. Chester Street Town taking the lead. Jenny Ashton in the 37th minute, not able to hold on to half time though. Nicole Havery getting 1 back for Middlesbrough. They go into the break level. 2 goals in 7 minutes. First for Jessica Met and then for Faye Dale puts Middlesbrough 3-1 in front. And the 90+6 goal for Clarissa Jackson just isn't quite enough for Chester Street Town. York City 2, Doncaster Rovers Bells 2. So goals in this one. 2 for Doncaster Rovers Bells, coming to Jasmine Saxton, 74th and 76th minute. Quick-fire double there, but York had been 2-0 up in this game. Ash had put them in front in the 32nd minute and Duffield in the 52nd minute with the other goal for York City. So 2-2 it finishes there. And Durham Sestra 4-0 against Norton and Stockton Ancients. Goals, hat-trick for Holmes, 40th, 57th and 73rd minute, and 1 for Clark as well in the 82nd minute. So 4-0 the win for Durham Sestra. Again, not a lot of movement in the table, but the points are all shifting. Durham Cestrel 1 point away from the top of the table with that good week for them. They've got 4 games to go. Hull City this weekend away. Hull currently in third. They've got 4 games in hand. If Hull were to win all 4 of their games in hand, they'd be on 46 points and gone. But points on the board are better than games in hand. Leeds United, frustrating week for them, not getting a game in. So they drop down to 6th, but now have plenty in hand. They've still got 8 to play. Do Leeds United. Down towards the bottom then, Chester Street Town still just 1 point clear of York City. FC United Manchester 5 points away from safety. Chorley 6 points clear of the relegation zone and with games in hand. So again, towards the top, Barnsley are still there, but it's starting to become a bit more difficult for Barnsley. Given the gap they've got now to Middlesbrough, even if you just take those 2. But Barnsley, FC United Manchester 12th, Leeds 6th, York 11th, Chorley 9th, Doncaster in 7th again. So Barnsley don't have difficult games coming up between now and the end of the season. That you could argue neither do Middlesbrough really. Chorley in 9th, FC United and Manchester in 12th, Norton in 8th and York in 11th. So Middlesbrough haven't got to play anybody 7th and above. So again, when you're needing them to drop points and drop points in 2 games from their last 4 for Barnsley to get back into it, it becomes more difficult. But Hull are the team to look at in Division 1 North because they have 4 games in hand. And as I said, if you were to win all 4 of those games in hand, then you go to 46 points as it stands at the minute, and you're 7 points clear with 4 games to go. Is a very strong position to be in. And with Durham this weekend, if Hull were to win that game and close the gap to 1 point behind Durham, still with 4 games in hand, then Hull very much are still in the driving seat there. Right, let's have a look at Division 1 South East. 2 leagues left to have a look at. We'll start as we do with the weekend. AFC Sudbury 1, Actonians 4. And timing's difficult on this one, unless they've been put in since. No, they haven't. So goals in this one for Actonians 2, Rochelle Shakes, Jasmine Williamson, and 2 for Dominika Nechkova. Goal for AFC Sudbury coming in the 28th minute, Ava Jovenel. But a loss for Sudbury. And then an absolute thriller at the Meadow. Chesham United 6, Ashford Town 5. What a game this one was. Goals for Chesham United, 12th and 16th minute, and then 2 for Gemma Fraser, 24th and the 44th minute, 1 for Elise Breaks in the 31st, 1 for Emma Delves in the 70th. Goals for Ashford mainly coming in the second half. Ashley Cheatley, 2 for Alyssa Down, 1 for Amy Dern and 1 for Anya Kinane. Chesham United were 5-1 up at half time and very nearly blew that huge lead, but hold on to the 3 points after what was a terrific game down there. Haywards Heath Town against Cambridge City postponed, as was London Seaward against AFC Wimbledon. Big game towards the top, finished in a draw. Norwich City 1, Worthing 1. City taking the lead through Ellie Smith in the 23rd minute, but Emily Linsker in the 73rd minute equalised for Worthing, which has done wonders for Wimbledon. And not a lot of good for either of those 2 sides. And Queen's Park Rangers at Loftus Road beating Cambridge United by 3-0. 1 for Emily Hill in the 23rd minute, and then 2 for Grace Stanley, 29th minute and 52nd minute. Midweek in Division 1 South East, just the 3 games. AFC Sudbury beating Cambridge City in a huge game towards the bottom by 2-1. Aliat Lam in the 71st minute, Chloe Brahim in the 91st minute, getting that last gasp winner for AFC Sudbury. Cambridge City had taken the lead in this game. Shalise Fleming in the 19th minute. They then held on to that for nearly an hour for AFC Sudbury get 2 goals in the last 20 minutes to take all 3 points. Big victory for AFC Wimbledon against Haywards Heath Town, but all the scoring coming in the second half. 0-0 at half time, and then 2 for Emily Donovan, 48th in the 83rd minute, 2 for Eleanor Dorey, 50th and 54th minute, and 2 for Sandra Martins, 85th and 90 plus 4. Means AFC Wimbledon not only get the 3 points but also help out their goal difference. And then last night, Cambridge United against London Seaward, 1-4 Fox for Cambridge United in the 46th minute, and a late equaliser for London Seaward through Sean Harris in the 87th minute. Interestingly, that goal, the only goal that couldn't find online. London Seaward didn't have a Twitter representative at that game last night. So a quick email to Joe Butler-Williams, one of the Seaward players, and get a response within an hour. And Sean Harris with the goal for London Seaward. What that means then for the South East table, surprisingly with so many midweek games, that there isn't more movement amongst these leagues in Tier 4. But AFC Wimbledon then are 8 points now clear of Norwich City, with Norwich City having 2 games in hand after they got that draw with Worthing. Worthing, they would have liked to have won it, of course, but they'll be very happy with their 3rd place that they've got at the moment in their in Tier 4 in Division 1 South East. And then elsewhere, Actonians climbing above Cambridge United. 5 games left to play for both of those. They are comfortably ahead of anything towards the bottom. Cambridge City, difficult one for them, because after losing that game to AFC Sudbury, a win would have sent them out of the relegation zone. But AFC Sudbury now 4 points clear of the drop, although both Cambridge City and Haywards Heath Town have games in hand on them. Division 1 South East, it's very much advantage Wimbledon now. They have 6 games to go and are facing teams. Well, they do have that big clash against Norwich to come. They've also got one against Worthing. So the title race far from done with 6 games to go, or 8 games in Norwich's case. It is advantage Wimbledon. Down towards the bottom, again, there's still so many games. I mean, Haywards Heath Town have got 7 left to play, and yes, everybody is above them, and yes, they've got Norwich towards the end of the season. But their next 2 games is Haywards Heath Town against Cambridge City at home, and then the week after that it's AFC Sudbury at home. So they've got the 2 above them. You can win both of those games, and all of a sudden Haywards Heath Town are out of the relegation zone. So still plenty to fight for in Division 1 South East, you feel. In terms of mathematically, Cambridge City can get to 24. And Haywards Heath Town can get to 25. So Cambridge United and up are safe. But London Seaward realistically are as well, as I do think are Cheshire. Finally then, for results, let's have a look at Division 1 South West. Full programme at the weekend. The same can't be said for midweek. But AFC Bournemouth, convincing victory against Abingdon United. 6-0 they come out winners. Lucy Cooper 3rd and 15th minute. Katie James in the 39th, so 3-0 at half time. Alicia Buckingham 48th and 51st starts second half strongly. And Erin Bloomfield in the 82nd minute with the other goal for Bournemouth. Bridgewater United 2, Swindon Town 1. Bridgewater United through Ellie Bishop in the 54th minute and Fiona Barry in the 62nd minute turned around that game after Swindon Town took the lead through Annabelle Colston in the 47th. It's not been a good week for Swindon. Exeter City 5, Maidenhead United 0. Unsurprising really that the top 2 continue to stretch ahead. Sarah Stacey 5th minute, Jenna Markham 18th minute, Phoebe Baker 22nd minute, 3-0 at half time. 2 for Connie Pengelly 73rd and 89th minute, comfortable for Exeter. Keynsham Town 2, Moneyfields 1. Great result for Keynsham Town. Isabel Amfett in the 29th minute and Naomi Clipston in the 45th plus 1 means Keynsham are 2-0 up at half time. Gemma Simmons 1 back for Moneyfields in the 57th minute, but they are unable to find an equaliser. And a great week for Southampton women's, it must be said. 3-2 win over Portishead Town. two for Oceana Adams in the first and the fourth minute, really coming out of the blocks quickly, were Southampton women's. But Portishead Town had tied it up by half time. Laura Barrett in the 30th minute, Ruby Hopkins in the 41st, and then in the second half, Megan Wood in the 69th minute gave Southampton women's all 3 points. And then another crucial game towards the bottom, Torquay beating Chelsea by 3-0. Both teams finished with 10 in this game, but Torquay United, Tracy Cross 14th minute, Georgia Chapman 47th minute, and Emily Eaton in the 57th minute. And Torquay United win by 3-0 and take the 3 points. Only 3 games in South West in the midweek, though, with Moneyfields against Bournemouth postponed and Portishead Town against Exeter postponed. Maidenhead United beat Swindon by 3-2. I said it was a bad week for Swindon Town. 2 defeats in the past 7 days, despite again taking the lead, and they were 2-0 up in this one. Holly Beck Exon. Now Twitter says 6th minute and full time says 15th minute. Take your pick with that one. And then Annabelle Colston in the 37th stroke 39th minute, whichever one you decide you want to take, doesn't really matter. Maidenhead United, though, in the second half, 3 goals, 2 for Stockton in the 49th and the 78th minute, and 1 for O'Brien in the 63rd minute, meant that Maidenhead United turned it round from 2 goals down to win by 3-2. And then the games last night, Southampton women 4, Chelsea 0. Adams again scoring early, 8th minute and the 49th minute. 1 for Vokes in the 29th and 1 for Aldridge in the 47th minute. Bridgewater United beating Torquay by 2-0, both goals coming towards the end. Snook in the 69th minute and Bishop in the 85th minute. Means that the Southwest table looks a little bit like this. Movement towards the bottom. 6 points from the week for Southampton Women's has put them from in the relegation zone to 2 points out of it, and with 2 games in hand over Torquay United. Chelsea, of course, still down towards the bottom. They are now 4 wins away from safety with just 6 games to go. So it's only a matter of time before Chelsea end up relegated out of the FAWNL. They've got a game this weekend against Exeter and then one next Thursday. But because of the way that the league is going, and unless one of the other teams can take a point this weekend for Southampton women specifically, then Chelsea will hang on for another week. Southampton women are playing this weekend. And then Keynsham going above Abingdon United on goal difference. One of 3 teams now on 26 points. I think this is what I'm saying. If you take away the top 2 of Exeter and Bournemouth here, and you've got Swindon in third on 29, Moneyfields 3 points behind them with 3 games in hand. Keynsham level with Moneyfields with the same 3 games in hand over Swindon. Abingdon 3 points behind Swindon, game in hand. Bridgewater a point behind those 3. So you've got 5 teams there separated by just 4 points at the moment. So Division 1 Southwest, if you take away the top 2, quite an exciting league. So yeah, we'll see what happens over the course of the next week as to if anybody will end up up or down. I'm not 100% sure. It's possible this week for anybody else to get relegated, but I will have to double check that and check again tier 5s to see if anybody else can get promoted. Let's though have a look at the fixtures coming up this weekend. It is very reduced. We're into the point of the season now. There are 7.5 weeks to go until the end of the season. 8 weeks to go until the end of the season. And with some teams only needing 4 games left, they've obviously got a lot of free weeks. So there aren't really, there's a couple. So next week is a full programme pretty much, and the week after is a full programme pretty much. And then by the end of March, people are on 19, 20 games played. So then, there are some teams that have got no game on the 7th, no game on the 14th, a game on the 21st, and no game on the 28th. So they're playing 1 game in April, just so that then everybody can play on the final day of the season. So Yeah, it's going to very much slow down, which is great because we're already at the 45-minute mark on this week's show and haven't even looked at the fixtures yet. But it will give us a chance to go through in more detail the like the run-ins of teams where it's relevant, and have a look at what might happen. But let's run through the fixtures then. For the Northern Premier Division, Stoke City against Burnley, fourth against third. That's turned into like a top third of the table clash. Wolves against Newcastle. Wolves down in sixth at the moment, but obviously that is a slightly relegated position in the sense of they're 3 points away from fourth and have 3 games in hand and still have 10 games to play this season. West Bromwich Albion against Halifax, 7th against 9th. West Brom, a couple more wins will do it for them in terms of survival. Just 2 games in the Southern Premier Division. Cardiff make the trip across to Oxford, but it's not a particularly long trip because Oxford's home game is actually being played in Gloucestershire, which is probably about midway between the two teams, to be honest. And Plymouth Argyle against #United, also slightly different venue for Plymouth. They're down in 10th, #United in 2nd, so difficult one for Plymouth. Even if Plymouth do win, because Billericay Town aren't playing, then Chatham Town cannot get relegated this week. 4 games in Division 1 Midlands. Northampton Town against Lincoln City is 5th against 8th. Peterborough United taking on Leek Town, 4th against 9th. Sporting Cowser against Sheffield, 2nd against 11th. And Solihull Moors against Northampton Town. That's a Tuesday game. Is 7th against currently 5th, and actually will still be 5th come Tuesday, whatever happens. But with Loughborough not playing this weekend, Sporting Cowser, if they beat Sheffield, will be top of Division 1 Midlands for next week's show. 1 game in Division 1 North. It is also, I should point out, this weekend it is County Cup weekend, which is why some of these leagues are so slimmed down in terms of games. Chorley in 9th, Hull City in 3rd. One of Hull's games in hand over Middlesbrough and Durham. They cannot climb any positions with a win, but they can obviously close that gap to just 2 points. Division 1 South East, 1 game. Haywards Heath Town against Cambridge City. Huge game towards the bottom. Both teams will be in the relegation zone come the end of the weekend. But Haywards Heath Town, if they win, Cambridge City go bottom. Haywards Heath Town are then just 1 win away from potential safety if the goal difference goes their way. Cambridge City, they win. They're still in the relegation zone, but 1 point away from Sudbury with a game in hand still. Again, that's what makes it so interesting towards the bottom. It'll probably end up being like a 0-0 draw now. Division 1 South West, the top 2 are in action with Bournemouth away at Maidenhead and Exeter away at Chelsea. The other game, Keynsham Town in 5th, Southampton Women's in 10th. If things don't go Chelsea's way, they could but won't be down. If Southampton women win this, actually no, they won't be down anyway because of Portishead, so ignore me. I was going to say if Southampton women get to 15 points by beating Keynsham, then Chelsea will be 15 points from safety with 15 to go, but that's not true because of Portishead Town only on 14 points. So yes, it'll be a couple more weeks before Chelsea go into the South West Regional League. But yeah, so Bournemouth away at Maidenhead, obviously Bournemouth 2nd, Maidenhead in 8th, Exeter in 1st, Chelsea down in 12th. You'd expect a win for both of those sides. And that'll do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. So next week we've got those games to catch up on. There's a couple of games on Thursday next week, but they're kind of mid-table teams from memory. And then we look ahead to the FAWNL Cup final at Kenilworth Road between Newcastle and #. That's next weekend as well. But that'll do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. We'll be back on Thursday next week at 6 p.m. Thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's episode, and keep supporting your local women's football team. Goodbye.